morning, Marketing 2 students. Today what we're going to talk about is the framework for creating customer-centered experiences. And really what it is talking about the P's of SEM, or sports and entertainment marketing. So I know we talked about the P's of marketing last year, and 2 of them are the same, but 3 of them are different. So I'm going to kind of go through what those look like and what they are as we kind of go. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So like I said, the objectives of today are to identify and define the 5P framework for SEM, and then how do you actually create customer experiences, which we'll be doing in class together. So I won't go over that as much about that customer experience side. So there's so many P's in marketing. I don't really know why there's so many P's in marketing, but there are so many P's in marketing. So the ones that we already know are people, planning, product, price, place, and promotion. Those are the ones for marketing 1 that we talked about last year. This year, what we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about the 5 P's of SEM and what that looks like. So these are going to be positioning, platform, promotion, profits, and people. So 2 of them are the same, but 3 of them are a little bit new or a little bit different. And though we've used the words profits and positioning before, it looks a little bit different in a sports and entertainment section. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the framework. So like one of the big things to really understand is what is the difference between strategies and tactics. So strategies are managerial decisions that affect the organization as a whole. So they're very long term and they deal with the tactics of marketing. So this is like how you rebrand yourself and how people see yourself when you think about logos and names and mascots. This is all going to be part of that strategy section, where tactics are much more short term. So this is maybe a year. It might be a promotional campaign for a season. Those types of things. So it's definitely more quicker, and it deals with more of the marketing mix, which is price, place, product, and promotion. So when we look at the 5 C's of, or the 5 P's of marketing, we're really going to talk about how they lead and position to create an understanding for your customers. So like you can kind of see, this is kind of like a baseball diamond to me, but like everything points to the pitcher, or everything points to the middle. So like this is where we position. This is how we have to understand our customers. And then we also have to engage our customers, respond to our customers, satisfy our customers, and then serve our customers. So everything has to lead back to that positioning of understanding our customers. So the first P that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about people. People, when we look at that P, is like businesses are becoming dependent on quality interactions with customers. We talked about that experience. What are you giving as an experience for your customers? That value. Why are they paying the money to watch it? Your game or go to your game or whatever it is. So the frontline people are what allow you to create that brand. They're going to wear your shirts, your hats, your merchandise. They're going to retweet and share and like on Instagram. They're going to do all of those things. And one of the things to think about is how do you become efficient to resource your customer service lines to create that better experience or to save money? So things that you could do to outsource is have challenges where people have to tag you, and with being tagged, it automatically comes back and like it kind of becomes more viral because of that. And then of course you also want to prepare the future sports and marketing professionals of the world. So like you want people to engage and love your sport because they're more than likely going to be lifelong customers of your sport or your brand as well. Target market selection. So like we talked about, who's actually going to watch your game. So obviously not everyone wants every good or service. So your resources are limited. So you have to be kind of responsible. You only have a finite amount of money that people are going to spend on entertainment venues. So like you have to have that correct target market. And then what happens if we don't have the correct target market? You probably are not going to sell as many tickets or have as many sales as what you could have. And your marketing mix is all based on who you're targeting to. So if you're targeting to teenagers like your guys' age, you're not going to use Facebook as part of your promotion and your marketing mix. And it's just one of those things that you have to look at. But if you're targeting moms like me, you're heavily going to use Facebook. So that marketing mix becomes very important, and it has to relate back to that target market selection of what you're going to do. The next one that we're going to talk about, and we've already talked about in our Marketing 1 class, is promotion. It's not all about the promotional mix. There's so much more than just putting an ad out there. So you got to engage your customers. You have to attract, hold the attention, and draw people into it. And then we look at sponsorships and endorsements. These are huge in SEM. So people are literally going to be doing these sponsorships all the time, of like having like their name or their logo out at a company. We even have a Spartan sponsor, and we're going to talk about Spartan sponsors in a little bit after break. So those are some things to kind of think about, is what's that sponsorship look like, and how does that work? It also is another revenue stream, so that's something to think about for your teams or for your stadiums. Like, it can make them a lot of money. The new P's I want to focus on today are the three called positioning, platforming, and profits, and what those look like. So those are kind of the new P's that I expect you to know. So as we look at positioning, this refers to being customer-centered and understanding your customers. So you have to understand, what is it that your customer wants? What do they like? How do you serve them? How are you talking to them? Those are all parts of that positioning that we look at with it. And one of the big things that you want to think about is the true definition, obviously, is making positioning decisions are a mix of internal standards and leveraging customer and external insights to create a marketing strategy. So basically what that means is you have to think about your values, your mission, your market analysis, your objectives, and your target market, because all of those things will in turn create your positioning for your company. So when we look at values and mission, your values are what you believe, what you feel is important as a company or as a sports team. And most of the time, they're all written on their website, but it's like focusing on excellence. So how do you focus on that excellence? A mission statement is like what it does, who it serves, what its goals are. Typically, these things don't change every year. These are like part of that tactics that we talked about earlier, where they're solid, and like you might revise them, you might review them to make sure you're still doing it, but by and large, this is who your company is, and this is what builds that company culture. And when you bring someone in, you interview them to make sure that they fit the values and mission of your company as well. As we look at it, Reebok, one of theirs is to be the best fitness brand in the world. Like, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Where the Bucks Stadium is much more in depth, where it's to advance the Wisconsin community through socially responsible programs, initiatives, and collaborations with community partners, focusing on youth education, youth health and wellness, community betterment, and mentoring. The Bucks are committed to owning the future and being a key leader in positive changes around Wisconsin. That is much more in depth, and I can really get a good sense of who the Bucks are and what their values that are based on that. Where Reebok isn't as strong. Like, I don't feel as connected, and maybe part of it is the fact that I live in Wisconsin, so I want Wisconsin to have and uphold those values. But those are some things to really think about, is what is that value and mission of a company. Market analysis is the next thing. So this is a SWOT. So like that SWOT analysis with strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So like you're going to review what's going on inside and outside your organization, and then find valuable information about how you can use and create strategies to better yourself. The next one we look at is marketing objectives. So what are your outcomes of the marketing function? So when you create that objective, you need to hit some measurable goals. Most marketing objectives, especially for SEM, it's going to come back to money. It's going to come back to interactions, or like how many tickets sold. It's going to come back to views, and it's going to come back to social media posts. So like those are all things that you want to think about. So like when we look at the Super Bowl is one of the bigger events because so many people go to it. and so many people watch it. So like advertising is much, you can charge more for your advertising slots because of that. And those are some things to kind of think about. The second thing we're going to talk about today, or the second P, is platform. Platform is if you don't understand your customer, you can't really respond to them. So, platform is how do you develop or create benefits for your customers? So, this is all about your brand relationships. It's about your product, it's about your place and distribution, and it's about your promotion. So, when we think about those types of things, those are all P's or things that we've talked about before. So think about what your product is. In an SEM world, it's not just going to the game. It's all of the merchandise, um, all of the other things that you can do that goes along with it. Your brand relationships are super important. I've talked about the Baker Mayfield thing where like the couple named their kid Baker and they got sent a jersey. But it's so much more than that. It's like, why do we like the sports teams that we do? Those are all going to be parts of that you kind of think about. As we go through it. And then we look at our place and distribution. So like where's their stadium at? How long does it take to get there? Where's the venue? I think of like a summer fest or a like country fest or rock fest. Like think about that place and distribution. Some of those places aren't anything until the fest happens. Those are some things to kind of think about with that place. And then promotion obviously is how do you promote it. So when we look at brand relationships, this is probably one of the ones that I don't talk a lot about in our class, or marketing one, but how do you purchase or why do you want to purchase from the brands that you do? And when you think about it, you want to think about that trust relationship. I'm an Apple user, like hands down, I use Apple. Like I have an iPad, I have an Apple Pencil, I have AirPods, I have an Apple Watch, I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone. Like I'm an Apple user. I can legitimately say that. But I trust them. I know that it's going to be a quality product. Like I know for a fact that if I buy something from them, I'm going to be satisfied with it. Where I had a Galaxy something tablet once years ago and I hated it. It wasn't reliable. It always glitched out. It like was not a great fit for me. And so I went back to buying my Apple products. And that's part of this brand relationship. So when we look at that brand position, it's how customers perceive a brand. Do I look at it as a strong brand? Do I look at it as something that I trust? That goes along with it. And sports are the same way, and entertainment is the same way. So think about what that brand position is. And then one of the things you have to think about is you have to create more value. And when you do that, you're going to offer more benefits, but you don't want to always sacrifice money because people always want to do a discount or a price break. And that's not always what you need. Sometimes you need to think outside of the box to really understand what your customer wants because it's not always make it the cheapest possible. Though, granted, that's great, but sometimes they need something else because you don't always want to cut into your profits or you don't always want to cut into your costs. And that's something to really keep in mind. And then the last thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about profits, price, and measurement. You have to satisfy your customers. If they are not satisfied by your product, they're not going to buy it again. You want them to come back. You want them to have a great experience to always come back. And you also need to make money. This year's been really different for our sports entertainment fields or venues because by and large, there's no fans in the stadium. So they have to think about how else can we make money? How else can we do some of these different things? So price is not the sole focus of profitability, but it's a way to measure results. So you really have to think about how much you're going to make, what you're going to determine, how many units sold. All of those things kind of factor in to this. And then the last thing you need to think about is what's your return on investment? Do you have enough people that are coming to this or coming to your event to make it worthwhile? And that's a big factor that you have to kind of think about when we talk about that experience framework and profits. All right. No trivia question for the day. So good luck with that. Maybe I'll just make something up and see. But thank you for listening. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving if you're listening to this over Thanksgiving.